Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Peace be upon you. Thanks for joining me again. Sorry, a little bit late today, but that's usually how things go. I had to restart my computer as it was low on battery. Salam, everyone. Salam, Daffy Logs. Salam, Aaron BV. Welcome, Miss Ali. Salam, Daniel. Welcome to the stream, McCollin. Hi, Sona. Salam. Salam, Chris. Salam, Danny. Welcome to the stream. Salam. Yep. Okay, let me know if you guys can hear me. Kind of wanted to discuss more of this last time, but things got a bit sidetracked. So I think if you guys have any questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the chat. I know that this stuff is really hard to visualize. Thank you, McCollin. Yeah, that's appreciated. Salam, Adnan. Okay. It's really hard to conceptualize things like this. But if you can, if you really believe in the Quran, and don't worry about all the claims against the Quran for a moment. Don't worry about all of that for a second. We can take that piece by piece, one by one, anytime. But just imagine for a moment the entirety of the Quran naturally is from Allah's perspective. What does that mean? That means the creator of the universe is the only being capable of writing, I should say revealing, but he did write somewhere in the reality what this Quran embodies. So we can't look at it from our lens. Does that make sense? We can't look at it as we would imagine. We would like it to be written. We would like it to be revealed. We have to look at it from the ultimate goal and purpose intended by the one who revealed this to the Prophet Muhammad via angels. So I'm glad that you're looking at this, Danny, because this is just a great example of what happens when you assume you know what the Quran says because excuse me, you grew up in this, traditional Islamic household and you never think twice about the way things are worded. So this stream is called Qur'an of the Fajr because this is the only time that word is used in this particular grammar, and it's connected to the word al-Fajr. Okay. So what we see here is establish prayer at the decline of the sun until the darkness of the night and the Quran of dawn. Indeed, the recitation of dawn is ever witnessed. So imagine you want to just translate the Quran for yourself because you're kind of sick and tired of the same, people telling you that you don't know any better, you don't know Arabic, you don't know the Salaf, you don't know the Hadith and the Tafsir, whatever. Okay. The first thing you would do is work with what you have available. So in this case, um, the word Quran is mentioned in its idafa form. Idafa is a form that nouns can take in Arabic that's neither indefinite nor definite. So, for example, throughout the Quran, we have many examples of this very word, Qur'an, where it says Al-Qur'an. That would be definite article. Other cases, we see Qur'anan, Qur'anin. That will be indefinite. And by the way, that's all precise. That's not just random diacritics people added and they just flows better. It's poetic. Allah put that in there, and we have the carbon copy of that today. There's a third type of nouns, and that's called idafa. You'll notice that there's neither a definite article at the beginning, al, nor an indefinite article, an, in, un. That's what's called tanween. Basically, they add like a ending. Assalamu alaikum, Amizi. So when you see that form, they tell you in Arabic grammar, it means possession. Okay? It means something that's like, let me see if I can find it for you. Okay. I would have really liked if they taught me this. Maybe they would have eventually, but this is used so often in the Quran that, it kind of stands to reason that would be one of the first things you would learn in Arabic. So, for example, you don't see Al-Rab, Al-Alamin. You don't see that. What you see is Rab, Al-Alamin. Dar, As-Salam. Okay. So as it says right there, it means when you put one noun in front of another, mostly to indicate possession. I think the word, apparently they say it refers to attachment, adding. I do have some notes on that at the moment, but I just kind of threw this together pretty quickly. Okay, so no definite article, no nunation. That would be indefinite, like a as opposed to the. I know, grammar is kind of boring. But I just want to show you that of all the things that Allah chooses to put in this form for the word Qur'an, literally the title of this book, what does he do but puts it next to the word Al-Fajr? We know what Al-Fajr means very well, don't we? The dawn, basically the dawn, like the onset of the new day. Just as sunrise is kind of coming. This verse never made sense to me when I was a practicing Sunni. And you can imagine why, because I'd get up in the morning, early in the morning, and I would do the Fajr prayer. So you would do, 2 rak'at, and then you do 2 additional ones for the sunnah, right? And then, you'd follow some other sunnahs. You'd lay on your side and, just contemplate, reflect, remember Allah, do some dhikr, and, open up the Qur'an and read from the Qur'an. This is the reason why. They tell us that this has to do with that prayer. However, the word prayer is nowhere in the ayah. And if you want to say as-salat is prayer, you're more than inclined to believe that. But you certainly, I guarantee you, will never use this exact root for prayer or praying or prayers throughout the entire Quran consistently. No way. Duties doesn't cut it either. That's just as vague, even if not more vague. So we're under the impression that Qur'an al-Fajr, inna Qur'an al-Fajr kana mashhudan. Allah is saying that this particular thing is witnessed. By who? Why? This is just the first prayer of the day. What's the significance of that? Apparently, everything reduces down to symbolic gestures of your body and your speech. But in the Quran, the entire book has a context that is beyond what we can even demonstrate in our world. Of course, okay. أقم الصلاة لدلوك. The decline of the sun. This is another word that's in idafa as well, mentioned only once, and they kind of put in there, this is a sunset. But there's a word for sunset, and it's very literal. It's literally like the place of east, the place that the sun actually comes out of. And yeah, on a globe it doesn't work, but who cares? The Quran is here not to be trifled with and mincing at its words to parse whatever meaning you want. It is what it is. And again, why is it that every time you have an idea from the Arabic Quran that says spatial information, they want to derive temporal information? You can see right there on the screen. Let me just scroll up a bit. The decline of the sun towards the darkness of the night. Not until. Until would be hatta. So why did they put until? Oh, that's right. You're not really moving a whole lot in the world when you do the prayer. And you're waiting from Fajr. Well, it doesn't even say Fajr. It says Duluk al-Shamsi. غسق الليل. The word غسق is supposed to be darkness, right? وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ. Everybody knows this ayah. You just have to look at what the root and words in the root are related to. Okay? And by the way, this is not at the decline. This is for whatever this means. I haven't looked into it. But you don't need to know everything at this stage just to appreciate how they dupe people. For duluk shams, the sun's duluk, towards the night's ghasaqi. I'm going to show you some other examples. And Qur'an al-Fajr. Indeed, the Fajr's Qur'an. That's what that means. The dawn's Qur'an. Here, they put it as Qur'an. But in the translation, one is Qur'an, the book, other one is recitation. If Allah just simply meant prayer and all this, He would just say Salat al-Fajr. And you could say, no, He specifically means reading the Quran during the time of Fajr after you're done your prayer. That's not apparent at all from the ayah. What I'm trying to highlight is the Fajr. It doesn't happen every day. That's why it's singular. That's why it has this big va, al, in front of it. Definite. That makes it significant, special, and specific in Allah's eyes. In His sight, I should say. Okay? That means if you're convinced every time you get up in the morning to pray Salatul Fajr before the sunrise, that's not Al-Fajr. That is just a reminder in the dunya of the Fajr. This is why every single aspect of the Quran is profound. Okay. What do we know about the Fajr? Well, colloquially, it's understood this means dawn. Does that not come after the night? Yeah, it does. What's interesting about this is we're talking about time. But Allah is beyond time and space altogether. So He's going to show you the ins and outs that Fajr does concern time and space. And Layl, same thing. An-Nahar, same thing. And that's why I tried to show in the last stream that the earth has ends. I've mentioned this so many times on this channel. Just like the day has two ends. That means it's spatial. It's spatial. Somewhere on the earth, there's a stopping point, and then something switches, and it becomes a layl. You understand? It's not just hours of 24-hour cycles. It's quite literally the extent of a type of space that creatures can live in. And Ibrahim literally went and crossed this precipice with Allah's permission. I think all of the messengers did, but his story is the most obvious. So now you know the Quran is associated with Al-Fajr, quite uniquely because it's only in this form with the Fajr. Let's look at what does the word mean, the root, to gush forth, to burst forth. Fajjara, fajjaru, infajarat. Wicked, fajr, fujar. Tafjir, abundantly. Today in modern colloquial Arabic, infajar is the word used for explosion. So you can see the gushing forth. The word for dawn actually in Arabic is related to some kind of a massive transfer of energy. It's not simply a time of the day. Everyone knows what times of the day are. But this knowledge in every ayah and every surah of the Quran, as Allah says, He teaches the human what he does not know. Basically, what he cannot know without revelation, without His intervention. This surah is all about this phenomenon. And we can go with, through it together if you want. Indeed, we sent it down in a night. But this night, again, is in that same idafa form because it belongs to the qadr. Okay? What does al-qadr mean? Here they put power. Sometimes they put decree. Sometimes they put fate. Yes, there is a determination, proportioning and measuring and estimation and appraisal and power and all this. But quite literally, it's about destiny. قدرناها, decreeing, destined. They really have a field day with this root to make it whatever they want. Here we say qadirun, all powerful. Sometimes they'll put competent, right? Capable, able. Here we go. Taqdir, decreeing. Ordaining. Basically what this word actually embodies, okay, is the entirety of what Allah commanded. And it will happen exactly as He wants. Well, to Him, it just all happened. We're still living it out because we're part of the command, in a sense. So, this night that Allah is talking about, He sent down, anzalnahu, the Quran, is associated with fate. Something that nobody can override, doesn't matter. Even how people apply their free will, it's factored into this, actually. And you could say the whole timeline of our existence is like that as well. But specifically here, in this duration of time, in this environment, this is associated with the qadr, the destiny's night, the decrees night. Whatever word you want, you get the idea. And what can make you understand what is this? Whenever you see this in the Quran, you should know that this is something outside of human capacity to truly understand until you actually witness it. Okay? That's why I mentioned Qur'an al-Fajr is mashhud, witnessed. He doesn't say witnessed by these people. It was witnessed by in this way. It's witnessed by Allah. It's witnessed by angels. It's witnessed. That is not incomplete. That's not inaccurate. It's not general. It is what it is. There is no denial that the witnessing of the Fajr's Quran, think of what that means. And I'll show you why this is significant in this particular surah, the last time Al-Fajr is mentioned. Because that puts in the context for the entirety of the Quran's words within a period of time called Layl, all the way until Al-Fajr. We like to think that these words in Arabic that denote times of the day, and even the word for day, and even the word for month, and even the word for year, are on our calendar. This is what we do. Oh, akhi, Ramadan is every year. It is in this month. And then it changes according to the lunar calendar. Next month, next year. Nope. They want to extract the information from the Quran and apply it in pretty much a totally symbolic LARPing way. What that means is they don't care about the actual meaning. They just want to decontextualize the information, the really truly profound information, which has implications for every soul, and make it a contest in I don't even know what, in futility. Because it's all well and good to have, fun and enjoyment and comfort. Yeah, that's a human thing, just as it is, when you're faced with hardship, that's also part of your test. It's also part of your character development, essentially. But please don't tell me that Allah would create the concept and tangible reality called al-Islam. and this is what we observe today. This is what he allows to stain the name of al-Islam, actually, with these robe-wearing monks going out to the streets and just winning the hearts and minds with forked tongues, and just every Friday congregating to recite hadith and basically, again, turn their religion into a game. Is that not in the Quran? Those who treated their deen or as a game, as a play, jest. Those who took the Quran in ridicule and jest and mockery, um, this is observable even now on some level. Obviously, in the future, there will be no doubt that that will be true. Yeah, salam food with AI. Salam. I'm well. I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well as well. Okay. Salam asim. I'm just gonna finish this point and I'll go back to the chat. Um, let me just see. Yeah, I'm I'm kind of apologies simulation. I'm kind of hungry at the moment. But I can actually can delete that for now. But apparently, we have some sounds that come here like slurping and tummy and stuff like that. So bear with me. What I want to highlight is we actually have a system in place called ad-din al-Islam. And that's not something you can just play around with. Okay? Al-Islam is actually not completely here. That may sound shocking to you. Al-Islam predates humanity. I'm sure imams will not tell you that because they say we need the Muslims to have Islam, right? What if I told you if you remove all the Muslims, Islam will still exist? If you remove the Prophet Muhammad, Islam would still exist. You know why? The reason why is because Al-Islam is not just something you can invent and convert people to. It's not a metaphysical thing. When it says you enter the deen, that's poetry. In the Quran, it's literal. Okay. So, yeah, let me just see if I can find the verse to highlight that. One moment, please. Let me see. Um, Can't find it at the moment. But yeah, basically, Allah says in the Quran that Al-Yawm, that's not just the day of Arafah in the Prophet's lifetime. Al-Yawm is the eternal day of the afterlife, the Akhirah, the latter life. And guess what? That's the perfection and completion of your deen, called Al-Islam. That's what it is. It literally will come to us. It exists somewhere right now, and near the end, if you're a believer, you will literally enter this existence. You like enter it. Imagine like there's like a house I mean, some kind of environment, and you enter it. Like a masjid. Imagine it's like, a masjid. Masjid is for Allah. But this particular one represents the deen, manifest, ready for the believers to be Muslims in like literally just live out the rest of eternity with their Lord. And guess what? Al-Islam actually subjects all of the criminals that are basically gathered like swine and apes to their position in hell. Remember, there's resting places, right? There's resting places in hell, resting place in Jannah. There's no spinning and twirling around in the akhirah, let alone right now. Let me just take a quick break, guys. I'll be right back. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be right back. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Thank you guys for waiting. Um, okay. Um, Surah Al-Qadr is all around a particular night. And like I mentioned, we are used to the idea that Allah's perspective of these words um, is somehow applicable and relevant as our limited perspective on these words. So when we see day, to us, that means 24 hours, right? To Allah, 1,000 years. So I just want to highlight this, Daniel. I think you're pretty much on the right track there because when you're talking about the night of Al Qadr, what does it end with? When does a night happen throughout the day? It happens at the end of a day in time. So this is what we see. Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. I know very well what this means, like even learning about the Quran and Islam. But clearly, there's a bit of a concept lost in translation. Allah is telling you, point blank, this thing this surah talks about is better. And he compares it with 1,000 of a month. Oh, yeah, that's right. If it was months, it would be shuhur, 1,000 months. It's not 1,000 of a month. 1,000 of a month? What does that mean? I'm just telling you what it would translate to literally, exactly as it is. I know Arabs today, they talk this way and they mean something else. That's because Arabs today use the Quran. I shouldn't say the Quran, but they use Arabic poetically. This is how it evolved because the Quran's concepts, and the Quran is actually the epitome of Arabic literature. The Arabic tongue is epitomized in the Quran. But even if it was months, doesn't that tell you this night is a little bit different, considerably different in, let's say, even its duration, even its effects, even its actual purpose than just one night that you have to pick out of the last 10 nights of an arbitrary month that we pick for you based on the moon cycles. And we don't know which one it is, but you have to go to the mosque in the middle of the night, pray, have your sins wiped, and go back. That's a foolishness. That's not Laylatul Qadr. Yes, that's right, you heard me. Muslims today believe they can change their fate. I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for what God wants. And He calls Himself Allah in the Quran. Why would I want to change my fate by asking on some random night that's not even like agreed upon when that is? Nobody knows. It's a big mystery. Once a year, and they think this means that this night of power is actually better than 83 years of praying. You pray this one night, you get the reward of 83 years of praying. If there was any substance to the whole praying, they wouldn't relish every time they associate the Quran with praying. You know why? Because whatever praying does for the world in the unseen, in your personal life, it is very real. There is a real calling out to Allah, and trust me, Allah responds. He is the one that responds to you, responds to whatever. I mean, he's not actually going to give you what you think you need, what you think you want. But your prayer, your calling out to him, your daily life, everything you do, it's already factored into his plan. Imagine, people actually go once a year. In 2030, it will be twice a year, but and they bargain with Allah. They say, "Forgive me, I've sinned." Blah blah blah. How is that different than going to a priest in the Catholic Church and having them, you know? It doesn't matter like what we did if we understand. Okay, how do I not repeat what I know is wrong now? Trust me, these games that they play with Allah, they don't actually change the person at all, because now you have a get out of jail free card and you can just do the same nonsense and be the same, just, enemy again and again, because now you will come back and just wipe your slate clean again. They have so many excuses ready for this type of person, right? That doesn't mean anything to Allah. You can't lie to him. You can't deceive him. You can't play games with him like that. Okay? The point is not that praying to Allah is wrong. The point is, what's the intention? What do you conclude about Allah from the Quran? You conclude that he needs your prayers? Clearly he doesn't. Okay, let's just get that straight. He doesn't need it. So it's for you. So if it benefits you, makes you a better person, makes you more connected to him, as if you're not already connected anyway. He made your soul and you think like you're not connected to him. Then do it. Then by all means, it's no different than any type of function that you do as a human being that cultivates something in you that's positive, right? Now, what do we see? Happens in the night. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها. This is what's actually descending down in the night. What do you mean in the night? I thought the night is just temporal. No. It's spatial. It's an environment. And the spirit and the angels, as one, come down in it. To do what? Well, they come down by their Lord's permission from every command. You could say matter in there or affair. This night represents Allah's commands just completely crystallized, manifested for everyone to see. And guess what? The last ayah tells you, Salamun. When we say salamun alaikum, we don't really realize what we're saying actually. We're referencing something that in Allah's knowledge is very tangible and very specific. A peace. It's not just peace in general, peace, hey, peace, peace. No, a peace, capital P. All right. This is what is her, the night. The night has a lot of things happening in it. But in the end, the net value is peace. This is until. So this one is correct. Until. Because now Allah is talking about a duration. Whereas in the other verses, he's talking about space, towards. Now it's until. So you see, Allah means what he says, like every single time. Because now the timing is what's being discussed. So she will be peace, because the night is feminine, Layla, until matla'i al-fajr. This is the end-all be-all of the Quran. Whether we want it or not, we are basically thrust into this test, this examination. It's a practical examination. That means it's not simply like you write it at a desk or, circle or correct answers. You live it. You demonstrate what you know using this Qur'an as a guidance, whatever form that takes in the future. Today's form is like this. Okay? So as you can see, this is the form of the Quran today. The one that comes down, that came down to allow for this copy of it, this transcription of that heavenly Quran, that's something really special. And it's somewhere in the world, just we don't have access to it. That's why I don't believe in the fake colonial manuscripts that don't have anything on there. They just have a skeletal text. No, the master copy, that's the ultimate version. That's the ultimate manifestation of the Quran. The angels are sent to guard it. So there's no way around it. This night ends with matla'i al-fajr. The dawn is the end of this day and the simultaneous beginning of the last day. And believe me, that day will never end. That's why it's special. The seventh day, I mentioned this before, I think seventh day is the day of the akhirah, essentially. Age of reconciliation, you're absolutely right. The Prophet is told, read, not write. Well, I think you meant there recite, but the same thing applies, right? Like he's told read, not recite. In fact, you kind of remind me of this claim in the Quran, or that they have about the Quran, about recited. And this is a nice segue into the celestial phenomena. You can see in the Quran that there's a lot of reciting all over the place. And yeah, I'm willing to believe that this could mean recite today, because today we have this. So yeah, you will um, orally, audibly read in cases in your life. Like, I'm reading in front of you guys audibly, orally. You can read in your head as well. There's nothing to suggest you have to read like creating moisture on your tongue when you pray or do anything. Allah can hear you in your thoughts or in your speech or in your whatever you do. It's kind of pointless to think like you have to do these exact routines. Only one problem though. Recite, 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 recite all throughout, except this one. You see that? This is the only word they don't put recite. Do you know why? Because it doesn't make any sense. And trust me, I wouldn't be opposed if Allah told me that the moon recites the sun. Hey, I that's from the unseen. He knows better than me. Okay? Look at this. And the moon, إذا تلاها. This is the surah called Ash-Shams, the sun, right? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa Ash-Shams. Every time you read the Qur'an, especially in Arabic, because Arabic is the actual preserved Quran. The translations are not preserved at all. When you see wa anywhere, the wa continues something that came before. It's like if I said, and this. Then the person would ask, what was the part that you said and after? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa ash-shams. Wa duhaha. Wa al-qamari. When it recites her. By the way, the shams is feminine. So the moon does not recite the sun. It precedes the sun. This is why if you pick up a copy of this right here, and you can tell, you open it up, okay? And you find this. That is the Quran. Of course, that's the Quran, no doubt. But this will not simply remain in just a book format in the future. The reason why is because the Quran is not divided into verses like the Bible. It's not divided into stanzas or sentences or any other type of literature you can imagine how it's organized. It's organized into ayat. Surahs, by the same nature, they're not chapters. Not at all. We just think they're called chapters because after this book was revealed, they generated, with the help of jinns, so much content. And believe me, they can make content like that. AI. Jinns. And then over time, we just mimicked how this book is organized. We created the Bible with the help of jinns. We created hadith. We created novels, romances, horrors, science fiction, non-fiction, anything that's man-made, and of course, at least partially some of it inspired by jinn. Food with AI, I have to say, it's not that they had ChatGPT. They are ChatGPT. In a very sophisticated form, ChatGPT is kind of like a kind of free version of the paid version, you know. But my point of saying this is that ayat are not just words. Ayat are signs, evidences, self-evident proofs, essentially miracles. Musa, he didn't just speak words, show the words on a paper of what ayat he brought to Fir'aun. He showed him. That means Allah's words manifest as phenomena. Sometimes a person can be an ayah, like Isa and his mother. It means that words from Allah become reality, and the reality reflects what those words are. His speech is our reality. So the reason why this night is so important, and I'll show you what it might look like because there's some hints in there, is because Allah says in the Qur'an, we will show them our ayat in the horizons and in their souls, i.e., everything. Everything will be a sign for you. And let me explain this too. It's not simply that they can hide the ayat. Trust me, if they could hide this is an ayah for us, by the way. It's not even in its complete form in a sense, because this is just transcription. This is like a analog version. Carbon copy, same information, same thing. But nonetheless, what comes from that, when this actually affects with its laws and with its predictions and everything, you will live the story, actually. You will live the story. The signs now are simply in the unseen. That's part of our test in a way. That's part of how, like, this book is really a furqan. It actually separates who believes from who doesn't. Truly. Even those that claim to believe in it, they don't actually. I mean, this is so obvious. 2 billion Muslims cannot all go to Jannah. I mean, theoretically they could, but imagine, just doesn't take long. Just look at what they claim about the book. Abrogated, missing information originally, added to. There's parts of it that were revealed that are not in it. That's kufr. So they claim to believe in it, but in practice they don't. That's called hypocrisy. So when it says recite, 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 tilaha, yatlu, yatluna, you're really just moving through in this period of time that contextualizes and crystallizes the Quran in the reality for everyone to witness. You're just proceeding in them. Let's see if we can look more at Al-Fajr. Okay. And remember, you have to take all of this. You have to take all of this collectively, holistically. Otherwise, you'll never get it. It will just be a mystery to you the whole time. Wal fajri. Walayalin ashrin. I never understood this verse ever. And now, even now, it's kind of perplexing because you really have to expand what's possible because this is Allah talking, not a human, not a jinn, not a devil, not an angel. Remember, I told you that a day can exist as much, much, much longer than our recorded history. By the same token, a night can as well. In this case, there's 10 nights. And I know people use this to suggest, oh, there's 10 nights difference between the lunar calendar and the solar calendar. That's all he's saying. Really? That's what he's saying? That's minutia. You doing this in your, daily life and having these kind of insular understanding, that fits for us, works for us. But to Allah, that's minutia. والشافعي والشافعي والوتر. Again, on the surface, it looks mystical. That's why they treat it that way. They don't think too deeply about it. Like Yasser Qadi, he's like, we follow the hadith and the sunnah and we don't think too deeply about it. Well, clearly, the writing's on the wall. Does this strike you as odd? How one root can have such different meanings between its words. I understand, like, words can stray a bit in meaning because, they are different words, but under the same root, there has to be an umbrella term that incorporates all of them. Not sure what to make of that, but just showing you nonetheless. Shafi'i. This is related to the concept of intercession, actually. Unbelievably, but actually quite believably if you think about it. This word, shafa', they're so convinced. Intercession, 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 intercession. Do you know what it actually means? I looked in the dictionary, kind of reflected a bit and thought to myself, okay, if Allah talks about intercession, this is a fancy word for just someone or something, right? Just giving you a hand where you have no help and taking you out of something, okay? When you need it desperately. Imagine that for a second you're in a courtroom and you have a lawyer that's defending you in the courtroom, okay? The defense attorney. Because clearly you're put on trial, you're summoned there, just like Allah summons all the criminals to the room. And he's like, all right. But you see, Allah knows everything. It's different than the judge. The judge has to make an assessment. Allah's been telling you about this since day one. So there's no mystery to him. He doesn't have to determine anything. The determination is a formality for him. That's what's called ad-din. Ad-din. Like in the Bible, the prophet Daniel, That word means in Hebrew, my God, God is my judge. Okay? Well, Deen Allah is actually where that comes from. Ad-Deen, the judgment or the determination of the courtroom. So you can also put the verdict as well. Now, shafa' is just somebody that advocates on your behalf. That's literally all it is. And it's tied to the angels. This is a kind of a sidetrack, but it's tied to the angels because the angels are the allies of the believers in the worldly life as well as in the hereafter. So that's why the Prophet Muhammad or any human or any jinn or anything with a freedom to do whatever it wants cannot intercede. No soul can intercede. So the angels themselves are literally like extensions of what Allah willed. So He wills the waters to flow. There's an angel for that. He wills the heavens to turn. There's an angel responsible for that. And they called them gods and goddesses and everything. So that's why Allah is the only intercessor, because actually these angels, they take His word and they enact that in their function. And they don't question their commands. They do as they're told. So Allah says, okay, we will save this person. We'll save Musa and Harun. Angels come, save them. They're constantly working, constantly. They're writing down everything for Allah, among other tasks. You can look at this for yourself. So they advocate on behalf of the believers. That's it. So they're not put under trial. Okay. Surah Al-Fajr. By the way, this word, this is really what the main thing is, okay? وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَسْرِ. You will see Layl and Fajr compared all the time. Because they're inexorably linked to each other. You cannot have one without the other. This particular one, the night, probably of the 10, maybe there's a total of 10 of them in all of the universe. And this final one comes before the last Fajr. Imagine if you had a day that lasted forever. It would never reach night. It wouldn't even have a proper cycles at all. Everything would be different. But what it would have is clearly a dawn so that it starts. The dunya is the same way. The dunya, 6 days long, it definitely will end in the night as the Fajr approaches. Isn't that interesting how the word in Arabic, Fajr, refers to something that gushes and bursts forth and explodes? Almost like there's a bit of a crack somewhere in the heaven. And we have a word in English called fissure. Fissure, fajr, fajr, fissure. It's practically the same sound. I believe that's where it will actually come out of. There's somewhere in there. Perhaps what you see, in the desert, or if the sky is clear, there's this kind of great rift. And they call that the Great Rift, which is basically the same meaning as fissure. This is how the heavens are unfolded. Anyway, a different discussion. But either. I told you that this likely doesn't just mean when. But they like to put it as when. When. If. Okay? That's how it's used today in Arabic. If you do this, this will happen. If this happens, then this comes into effect. Okay? I don't think that's completely accurate, but it's interesting that there's discrepancies that big. This one, then. A lot of times I will actually see in the actual ayah, they will put in there suddenly, or suddenly it comes. That's why if you go further down, you see this, behold. Behold. What is here to behold? Then, when he removes the adversity from you, at once a party of you associates others with their Lord. Let me ask you something. What is to behold about this? If you're to take this at face value and not really think, why would Allah devote an entire ayah to something that's obvious like this? This is just obvious. So there has to be more to it. Thumma is not just like, then this happened, then that happened. Thumma to Allah is literally like you go from one era to another era. One day of creation to another day of creation. One reality to another, one universe to another. It's a major sequential change. It just signifies sequence. It doesn't tell you right after. It could be 1,000 years later. Okay? But it definitely means after whatever came before. So then, behold. But look, they put here when. But when it's translated as a word, they put behold. And you're right, Sam. It's a separate time, a time after. So it denotes something that we haven't really experienced. No human that's within time has experienced yet. Yet being the key word. Ad-durra, about you all. And look, it's put again. Either fariqun, a group from you all, birabbihim, by their Lord, yushrikun. They are incorporating. There's a context that's missing from the consciousness of Muslims about the Quran. You technically don't need the Quran to know that having more than one all-knowing, all-powerful creator, Lord, doesn't work. Logically, rationally. You really don't need the Quran to tell you that there is one all-powerful, one almighty, first cause, Lord, necessary cause that brought everything into being outside of time and space. That's a logical, rational idea. Like it's called the Kalam argument. However, Allah brings this in His book to clue you in. There can be no other alternative. In case you have some doubt. And so when He discusses shirk in great detail, ayah after ayah after ayah after ayah, there's something like 5 to 6 ayahs back to back in Surah 19 that deal with one concept. They ascribe a child to Al-Rahman, Allah. Would a child think that Allah is a father that has a son or a daughter? No. Every child knows. No, God is God. He creates. He doesn't have offspring. Nobody birthed him. He didn't birth anyone. So why would Allah waste, quote unquote, so much ink to things that are obvious? I guess humanity is pretty stupid. Let's be honest. They're pretty stupid. So there's that. But he already knows that. So it's because this scenario will play out. It will actually play out. Despite all the obvious proofs, all the manifest, when people enter the hour, okay? And by the way, I see a lot of confusion about the hour, the day of judgment, the resurrection. For some reason, the mosques, in their infinite stupidity, have mentioned that these are all synonymous, basically just different ways of saying one event. Really? Really? How can it be one event? They're completely different words entirely. And yeah, Allah can explain one thing in different ways to give you all the details around that thing. But guess what? Al-Qiyamah, Ad-Din, so Yawm al-Qiyamah, Yawm ad-Din, is treated very differently. Almost mutually exclusive, but obviously related, right? What's in between that? We're assuming that's one day and only one day. Allah has 6 days and another one, the final one. In the Quran, there's a mention of Yawmain, 2 days. And Ayyam, days in general. All of that is calculated. So let's say you're a Sunni Muslim. I hate to pick on Sunnis all the time, but they have the monopoly, unfortunately. Well, technically no one does, but that's what people believe. When you're resurrected, they see this as the hour, and they see this as like just jump to the day of judgment. See? The reason I made this stream is to highlight the arrogance of that. You live this kind of nominal life, okay? It's pretty much mediocre compared to our true history, okay? And you work and work and work, and you think, yeah, this is my life. This is my, this is my test. I go to work, I sleep, I eat, I have a family, blah, 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 blah. And I go to the mosque, I pray. I have the beard, I have the hijab, I have the thawb. I attend all the Ramadans, I do all the sunnahs, and I'll do all this. I have a checklist with me. So I keep track of the checklist, and the checklist is what Allah will ask me on the Day of Judgment, and I'll be good. This is literally insanity. This, I'm sorry to say, not the test. That's actually enjoyment. People get carried away and they enjoy this and they become worldly because this is a time where things are worldly. 100%. That doesn't deny people of spiritual connection. That doesn't deny that. That's clearly still possible in some form. Okay? However, the test is far greater than that. So what's going to happen? You take a woman who's lived in the United Arab Emirates, for example, and she's been approached by some family members and friends throughout her life. Hey, I don't know, this doesn't make sense. The Quran seems to be at odds with what we're taught in the mosque and all our traditions. They don't really line up. No, 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 no. That's those hadith rejectors and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Everyone will be given indications of what's truth and what's fiction. Everyone. They'll be exposed to it. If they're not, then they definitely will at some point. Okay. But let's just say they are in this life, this kind of worldly life. That woman ends up passing away due to natural causes, like everyone does, and wakes up and thinking, like, what happened here? What happened to the world? What is this? I see all these palaces. I see all these giant trees. I see that the sun and the moon are joined, and I thought I was dead, but I'm alive. It will look completely majestic. They will see all their ancestors. Like, oh my God, that's my grandfather. That's my great grandfather. That's my entire ancestry. And likewise, those people that passed on before us will look at us and say, wait a second, I look like these people that look shorter than me, but they look like me. They're my descendants. Let this be a warning to anyone that has doubt in this or the hour. They're mutually inclusive. We have been taught to think in Islam today that we enter the day of judgment. We're raised, sent, gathered, asked questions by Allah. Did we pray? Yes? Okay, Jannah. No? Okay, hell. Oh, wait. You Muslims in hell, did you say the Shahada? Oh, okay. Just stay there for a little while. Then I'll bring you up with your faces blackened into Jannah. This is what we're taught. However, have you noticed the injustice of that? This is the most lied about book possible. Underestimated book possible. The messenger this was descended upon his heart is the most lied person and slandered person ever. So that means there's no way you will get the truth about this from conventional sources. It's all gatekept. No way, no way. It's too important to them that you don't understand. Okay? What's the injustice of their explanation? Well, the injustice is all of the myriad of scenarios where somebody doesn't get the chance to earn Jannah now. A person dies as an infant. A person dies as a teenager. Someone is born with a defect they can't possibly understand. Someone lives in an isolated part of the world that they have literally never heard of the Prophet Muhammad or Islam or Arabic or anything. They live in a naked tribe and they live in the jungle and they don't know anything. Then you have the old lady in America, and She doesn't hate Islam or Muslims. She has some Muslim friends here and there, but she's never actually heard of a proper, literally like best um, explanation about this and everything this stands for. All she's heard is from the apologist on the Christian side. This is a satanic book. This is devil worship. On the Muslim side, this is the Sunnah, and we just pray all day and we just, say all these spells throughout the day so that God protects us. And some of them even wear amulets, even. Where is their chance to receive Allah's mercy? It's not in this life. And the reason why is because there has to be a balance in every single thing that's ordained by Allah. So that means there will be people that clearly they don't get anything now and definitely not later. There will be people that do get things now, so later they know what to expect. The hour will not come suddenly for them. Okay? And then you have people who are righteous. I mean, think about it. You could talk to a person who's an atheist. But that's a word that's misapplied all the time. It basically means somebody that tends to believe there is a higher power, but they don't believe in religion. They know that there's a need in them to be a good person, to be righteous, to manage themselves, to improve themselves, and they understand that there is a God somewhere. But the religions don't represent that. So they just carry on through life and they never know anything that this actually is what they're searching for. The hour is when they will have full awareness of what they were missing. That's why Allah is saying He is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Mercy, compassion, benevolence, whatever way you want to define it. Allah says, and it's very powerful, He encompasses everything in His mercy, rahmatihi, and His knowledge, ilmihi. They go together. But the mercy comes first in the equation, in order. So that means that if you don't have mercy towards yourself, towards others, towards the world around you, you can forget about knowledge. Every single messenger had a certain quality. And it's pretty clear that it's related to rahmah, because this is what the creator of the universe concluded is the best way to do things. Imagine. We seem to tyrannize all the time, ourselves, people in our lives, the governments of the world do it to us. And the one with ultimate power, what does he decide to do? He creates his system based on mercy. That's why when you see the bees and the plants and the food chain, the animals, the systems of rivers and mountains and the entirety of the created world, even people in your life can be like fitting into this model. And I believe that aligning yourself to this natural order, that's part of being Muslim, actually. Plants are Muslim, mountains are Muslim, trees are Muslim, stars are Muslim, the sun and the moon are Muslims. Why? They do what is expected of them. They fit in their place. Which brings me to the hour. Why do they or just literally like a question and answer between slaves raised alive naked and asking, did you pray? No, not at all. I'm going to show you that. Basically, the people that are convinced and have attached themselves because of the mosques, because of all religions, actually, all of the understandings outside of religion, within politics, everything is trying. Everything is trying to attach you subconsciously so you become of those sent to hell. That's why the people that are resurrected one day, collectively, they will think the world around them is paradise. They will think, oh my goodness, we skipped the judgment. We're the chosen ones. The heaven is on earth. Look at all the palaces I made. I donated to a mosque. That's my house over there. Allah said He would make a mosque for me in Jannah. It will be after the freaking out of what the hell are we living in passes. People will go full force into everything they did wrong before the resurrection, and they will just have the time of their life, taking all of the worldly hayat ad-dunya they can imagine, because shaitan will beautify all of their misdeeds. You see this verse, this ayah? Beautified for those who disbelieve is the hayat of the dunya. That's a very specific way to just say the life of this world. Of course, the world is going to have life. The Creator made it, and He created souls. He's not going to create a world where nothing exists, where there's no life, like the sciences teach us. They're just planets like billiard balls rolling around with just deserts and tundras. No. The reason why He says al-hayat ad-dunya is because this is literally the epitome of all the life that could exist, has existed, will exist in one period of time. And it is in the dunya. Dunya, Muhammad from God, is related to something near, something inferior, something basically like right next door to the akhirah. So first you have the former life. That's the ula. The dunya is literally this sliver before the eternity. Akhirah. They ridicule those who believe. Oh, by the way, it's not those who believe, by the way. Allah is very specific. The ones who believed, the ones who confided, who trusted. You know why it's in past tense? Because everybody can pretend to be a believer now. You don't know. Especially now, you don't know. So Allah goes straight to the ending. And He says, yeah, those who believed. They were the ones who were the ones all the time. And riddle me this. Why does Allah say they are above alladina kafaru? They're literally above them. I could draw this out for you if I wanted to, but I'm just trying to let you fill in the blanks. Okay? This is the one I want to show you. And please, think carefully why every single word here is chosen in this specific ayah, and then try to apply this to the modern world and see that it doesn't quite fit like a glove in the world we know and understand today. That doesn't disprove the Qur'an. That means the Qur'an is beyond what we can touch and the grass that we can touch now. Beautified for mankind. Remember, I just showed you beautified is used for the ones who disbelieved. Beautified for mankind. Is the love of what they desire from the women and the sons and heaped up sums of the gold and the silver and the fine branded horses and the cattle and the tilled land. That is enjoyment of the hayat ad-dunya. Why am I putting this on the screen? It's because nobody really truly lives in this world anymore. And even if they did in the Middle Ages, in the mainstream timeline, that's clearly what we're told of Middle Ages, okay? To this book. The cover, even the cover, has that vibe. Do you see that on the screen? Medieval. That doesn't mean it's 1,000 years ago. But clearly, we are not given any disclosure of what happened in our past. Practically nothing. This is the hayat ad-dunya. Enjoyment from it. Why these things? Why not just modern things? Why didn't the Prophet predict all the technology and advancements and everything that would be an enjoyment for us now? Because we came after and we are supposed to have improved, right? Wrong. This is what we had in the former civilizations, roughly, and we will definitely have it in the future during the hour, because that's where people experience the epitome of their enjoyments. That's why it's a test. Allah says, those who forget our dhikr, or Allah's dhikr, Allah will forget them. We will make them forget themselves. There's many different variations with that same idea. And I am paraphrasing, but you can find this for yourself. What does that mean? Does that mean potentially the people that wake up resurrected will literally not remember what they need to do, what they should do, and they just continue doing the same thing that they did in the past before they died? For example, Pharaoh, he's just got one story basically. And what's interesting is it's not just Musa and Harun sent to him. There's another noble messenger and trustworthy messenger who's unnamed, and he's unnamed throughout most of this book that his heart had descend on. He's sent to Pharaoh. during the hour. If Fir'aun lived again, remember his body's somewhere. It's not in the British Museum, definitely not. That's not his body. That's a mummy of modern times. Sorry, Maurice Bucaille, but his body's somewhere. Let's just say he's resurrected tomorrow. Could happen anytime. What do you think that individual will do when he has all of the wealth and power he had in his former life and more? Because he has ancestors too. Musa tells Fir'aun, the Lord of your first forefathers. That means Fir'aun is actually, he's pretty ancient in a sense, because his ancestors are pretty much like the first humans, in a way. For us, it's just your fathers, because there's a long line of humans. If you guessed Fir'aun is going to do exactly to a T what he did the first time, then you'd be correct, because that's what we see. The messengers will be the ones that are in on what's going on. And there's two words for messenger, if you haven't noticed. Rasul, mursal. Plural form, Rasul, mursalin. What's the difference? Surah Qur'ana. One of them is incorporated in the other. Every Rasul, I should say, is from the Mursaleen anyway. But not everyone from the Mursaleen is a Rasul. Musa was a Rasul, Muhammad was a Rasul, Isa was a Rasul, and so on and so forth. But Mursaleen, they're like agents of that message, of those messengers. Those are believers. Every messenger is a believer by default. And clearly, it's just so amazing. Imagine you're in a play, on a stage. They tell you all the world's a stage, everything's scripted. That's why this is called scripture. Because everything will play out exactly as the director and producer said it will. What if all the actors are not necessarily going to see the stage, but some will? Okay, think about it this way. You get to the act with Musa and Harun, right? And you're not in the audience, you're in the stage. There is no audience. All the humans are on the stage, okay? And you witness Fir'aun. He doesn't know he's acting out his demise. He doesn't know he's reading this book's script. But Musa does. Harun does. The believers do. The believers break the fourth wall all the time. But the disbelievers are literally, they forgot. They forgot this day is going to come. They forgot this hour will happen. And they will relive all of their mistakes, all of their errors again. That is so cool. That means the hour is when the promise for the believers and the punishment for the disbelievers starts to come into effect. And think about it this way. If only I had a second chance, I would have been one of the good doers. If that's the correct translation, what that means is they were not even aware they had a second chance. They passed up their second chance. Literally, think about this. Just think about this. The Prophet Muhammad is constantly addressed as if he's still alive. Sunnis, Shias, Quranists, Christians, Jews, mankind, wake up. This book's not finished yet. And by God, neither is the messenger. Clearly, this book came with a messenger. So I logically think that he existed, lived out his life, did his thing, and now he's waiting for something. The big finale. Because his life incorporates the lives of all the other messengers. Of course it does. You can prove that. You think you need hadith to find the seerah of the Prophet? All I need is this book to understand why it's even called the seerah and not hayat. It's called the seerah because he got around. He wasn't confined to a few towns in Arabia. He got around, just like all the other messengers did, in pieces. So what we see actually is the messengers and their civilizations and their warnings and their stories are pieces of the hour. That might be hard to believe, but trust me, Allah's capable over everything, right? More than capable. So he can just compress everything. The history of humanity, the history of the jinn, even the angels probably, into 1 hour for him. That will not feel like an hour for us, perhaps, maybe after some, I don't know, but clearly the hour, at the very least, is an hour to God. Okay? You ever wonder why Musa is the most mentioned name out of anyone in the Quran? Is it because this is a Jewish book? The rabbis are correct, the Kabbalah is correct? No, they don't believe in Musa. They hate him. They treat him like a warlord in the Torah, the fake Torah. Musa is the most mentioned person in the Quran. Let me show you why. One sec, guys. Okay. It's yeah. Okay. This is the one. Please take this seriously, right now. Indeed, we have sent toward you all a messenger, emissary, as a witness. And that's what we'll be doing the whole time. If you're a believer, you're literally just going to be witnessing everything. You will act, of course, you will fulfill Allah's story. But you're just going to be witnessing the whole time because you're like, my goodness, it's all true. It's literally all true. It's all around us. This was exactly the whole thing the whole time. Nothing else. Nothing more. And what does it say? Like what we sent towards Fir'aun of a messenger. We send a messenger like what we sent of a messenger to Fir'aun. That's why Musa's name's mentioned the most out of anyone. He's literally a prototype for the Prophet Muhammad, the Prophet of the hour. For the Qur'an of the hour, the Qur'an of the Fajr. How the Fajr, the story, how the Fajr of eternity comes into being. Have you ever heard of Prophet Muhammad telling Pharaoh, listen, give me the servants from Bani Israel? No. They even tell you this secretly in Exodus. A prophet like Moses will come from your brethren. And Sunnis understand very well this is the Prophet Muhammad. They never care to open up the Quran to show that. So, chapter 44, Surah 44, that's the story. That's why the Prophet in the Quran performs this voyage beyond the heavens called Al-Isra. He's from Bani Israel. There's no way around it. Literally, he's from Bani Israel. It's not just a group of Jews, and Arabs are not just a group of little tiny Arabs that just all look different and there's no way to actually know who's an Arab. It refers to humanity. Oh, you think you're going to be speaking the languages you do during the hour? Why would you think that? Is it because you like your language? And I'm sure you would prefer things than the way that you're used to and you're comfortable to. Okay? But Allah, what he says is what reality is. If he tells you there's no ill speech in Jannah, and the word there is used for languages, laghwa, lugha, lughat, you can forget about speaking anything other than Arabic in Jannah. Hell. I don't know about hell specifically, but clearly, I made a video on this. You can check it out. Called The Arabic Tongue. And it proves beyond the shadow of a doubt, the Quran is basically going to wrap everything up and just reduce and return everything back to Arabic, because that's what everyone spoke for most of history. Their bodies were different. Their physical forms were different. The hypocrites will actually look very attractive to people. Their forms please you, but they're actually a joke. They're actually the worst people. Obey the messenger. Follow the unlettered messenger, the ummi, whatever, the ummi nabi. Do not raise your voice above the messenger. He is shy, and do not stay for hadith unless you are asked, blah, 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 blah. O you of the Prophet. O whichever of you of the Prophet. Ya ayyuha an-nabi. How can that apply if he's dead? For 1400 years. Wake up. If you want to go to Medina to pay respects to a shrine that you assume has his body there, trust me, you have no idea what's in that thing. And even if he was dead and buried there, what are you doing? He's not going to hear you anyway. And then you have to explain Why are there so many ayat that are just historical now? Historical. This ayah was revealed in the Prophet's life because he did this thing, and that's for those people of that time. That doesn't apply to us. Really? Allah's speech is not eternal now? I thought we were of the understanding it's uncreated. Like him. Oops. So when it says obey the messenger, think what that means. Obey al-Rasul. You can get poetic as you want. Okay. What you see on the screen there, that's not just a insufficient explanation of entertainment of the hayat ad-dunya. Allah's word is complete. So this will be, as it was at least partially in the past, the test that really distinguishes who cares about the world and who cares about the hereafter. Do you care about this? And trust me, you've never experienced this. Any of us alive today have never experienced this on the screen. There's tons of definite articles. I think even every single one has a definite article every now and there, pretty much. Al-Khayl is horses. Let's look at that actually. So apparently this is branding. And I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. Okay, whatever. Maybe they're marked. They have some branded horses. What's this? Marked from your Lord. Allah's punishment is not from the wrongdoers far. That's also spatial, by the way, in distance. Marked in the presence of your Lord for the musrifin. Affliction. Oh, by the way, when you have two nouns that each have a definite article in Arabic following each other, they like to make it an adjective. Okay? Because they don't know what to do with it. Al-Masjid, Al-Haram. There's an invisible of there because, the best of my knowledge, there is no word for of in Arabic because Arabic has the possessiveness of a word embedded in it. It's implied. It doesn't need to have an of like English. Other languages have that as well, but Arabic has the full thing. Al-Khayl al-Musawwamati. Okay. Who has khayl in the Quran? Oh, look here. It doesn't actually mean just horses. It can be any cavalry. If it's cavalry, that's in the context of fighting and war. Trust me, there will be a war, okay? That's why Allah talks about a war from him and his messenger against ar-riba. How is that going to happen? A war from Allah and his messenger, who's supposed to be long gone. This is a surah fundamentally about war because Surah Al-Anfal deals with the spoils of war. And what's interesting too is Allah tells you that these horses are literally the means by which you terrify Allah's enemy. How are you going to do that when cavalry has been ineffective for 100 years? You got a problem there because cavalry was last used when we still fought with swords. We don't fight with swords anymore. I'm not saying that this is technology, like a tank or an F-16 or whatever, but clearly we are missing something that's now in the unseen. That's why Allah tells you the unseen. Doesn't the naba come from the ghaib? News of the unseen, information of the unseen. A nabi is a informer. If you want to call him a prophet, no problem. I call him the prophet too, but he's an informer of the unseen. He doesn't know the whole thing clearly, but Allah lets the message come across nevertheless in a sufficient way. Well, Birdsong, if you watch the episode, that's not really what terrified them the most. Okay? And by the way, if you think that's an accident, that episode is literally named after this surah. The spoils of war. What they were really pissing their pants about in that episode is supposed to be fake and fantasy and fiction and all this. Yeah, I get that. Was the thing that was flying above their heads, breathing fire. And trust me, when you come to this book, don't worry about hadith. Hadith has its own unseen messages as well. But I'm primarily concerned with this. Because without this, there's no hadith. You can have this without hadith. You can. But what would hadith explain if the Quran didn't exist? Nothing. So when the messengers come to the people, they're people, right? They bring them these signs. They teach them this message. The Prophet Muhammad is nothing original from the messengers. Everyone agrees Islam goes all the way back to the beginning of humanity. As a concept, as a system. And over time, it becomes very clear what that implies. So do you know what they say to those messengers over time that give them this message? Basically, this is the idea, this knowledge. Oh, that's just legends. That's just legends of the former peoples. Myths, fantasy. When he goes to the more kind of godless people, you know, I'm not talking about I'm not talking about like, you know, polytheists, mushriks, idolaters. Those people have gods. They have a concept of legends and stuff. But they think that, no, this is legends. And then those people will say, this is just magic. This is just illusions. These are not miracles. There's no God doing all this stuff. The disbelievers take the unseen aspects as fantasy and just imagination and mental masturbation and all this. No, no, no. That's what the disbelievers say. Allah says this is real. And everything from the unseen is very real. It's more real than what we can observe, actually. We can't measure it, we can speculate about it. And the Quran is the definitive statement. Ahsan al-hadith, the best of the discourse or report that Allah sent to humanity over its history. This book is the best of it. So that means you can take that to the bank. And he describes a staff becoming a thu'ban, mubin. That's what happened. No metaphor. No other word can be substituted for his words. So yeah, they use these steeds. And a steed is anything you ride, any creature that you can ride. Today, we don't have very, primordial creatures available anymore. So we use technology. Why is everyone riding horses again in the Quran? And how can they frighten people with them? And we also say Shaitan has his own version of that. Does Shaitan have horses? Think about this for a second. Shaitan is a jinn. Shaitan has horses, foot soldiers. How? Explain. And by the way, Shaitan he does have soldiers, right? Junud Iblis. That one uses his actual name, not his title. What would that look like? Can we even imagine that? Are we allowed to imagine that? Are we allowed to even think about the Quran in any way that it presents itself to us? Is this simply just showing possession and all this? And you can see a picture start to form. This is literally happening. And guess what? Allah is giving a command. So that means somewhere in the timeline of the universe, this happens. This very thing happens. Shaitan is not as free to do everything as he thinks he is. In fact, every single thing is accounted for, and it has to work collectively to bring about the end. It's actually out of the control of jinns and humans. The angels bring it about with Allah's command. So I guess those are horses too. Now you have horses or camels. I mean, there's several words for camels in the Quran. So which one fits the description of camels? Maybe none of them are camels, but at the very least, there should be one if it is. There's another one that shows that they want to make the Quran out of touch with the modern world, because the modern world is created to hide its ayats manifestation in the future. You could say technology will fail, there will be a flare from the sun or something, and we will return to riding horses and donkeys and blah, blah, blah. But there's one problem though. These are specific things. Call this. He didn't just say any old horses, any old mules, any old donkeys. He said the. So that means Allah specifies what we don't understand to make us think, why is this even of any relevance to us? Definitely is. This is called a zina as well. How can a horse be a zina? Unless it's in this particular set of creatures is very valuable. Very valuable. And yeah, horses can be expensive. You know, rich people have ranches and stuff. Doesn't change the fact that once you factor in all of these coincidences, you start to really appreciate every single ayah for what it is. All right. Let's see. Yeah, behold. When. Is it when, and when, but when, what, when? Behold, behold. Behold, when? Behold. And again, you'll find a discrepancy through this particular translation on this website. And this is authoritative. People present this information. This is Islam's opinion on the Quran, the Islamic scholarship's opinion. Of course, you have, you know, the whatever, Ibn Kathir and this tafsir and that, but really, I mean, no one is going to question what you have on the screen here. It's the mainstream. You can actually use the mainstream opinion to show why. Look at that. Remember I told you this word means when, apparently? Well, here they put it as suddenly, as if it's a spectacle you cannot imagine. Thu'ban. I mentioned Thu'ban in another live stream. There's a constellation in the sky with a star that has this name. I think it's the brightest star in there. The constellation means dragon. And dragons were called many names in the past. Serpents, worms, drakes, wyverns. You can imagine. Now we call them dinosaurs or something like that. Pterosaurs, whatever. But clearly, back then they had a better idea. And yeah, okay, it can be snake, but then hayyatun is also snake. Apparently jinn is also snake as well. Serpent, snake, serpent. All to hide what's on in black and white there. Okay. Yawm ad-Din. I never got into this, but Yawm ad-Din is mentioned a few times in the Quran, verbatim. And you'll appreciate what it's associated with if you understand who it's for. Let's see. Biyawm ad-Din. Okay. This is in Surah 83, Ayah 11. Notice the wicked are called al-Fujjar, like Fajr. They will surely be in Sijjin. What can make you understand what is Sijjin? Oh, by the way, this word is related to the word for prison, Sijin, as-Sijin. So you can imagine Allah's version of this and where it could be, like a dungeon. Kitabun marqumun. Here is described as a book. That's interesting. Some kind of record. Woe that day to the mukaththibin, the deniers. The ones who deny by Yawm ad-Din. Okay. What did it say after? Who denies by? Every mu'tadin, asim. Suddenly proceeded upon him are our ayat. And they say, just stories of the former peoples, just tales and folk tales and fairy tales. Nope. Something is just enveloping them, their hearts, what they were earning. They will surely be mahjubuna. This is the root for hijab. And this is who the hijab is against, actually. If you haven't noticed in my other videos, I mentioned that hijab is never mentioned as an article of clothing for humans. That exact word in the Quran. But rather, it separates the people of Jannah and the people its subject is upon is really people of Jahannam. Then indeed we're going to do what? Salu? Salu, Salah, Salli, Salluhu. I wonder what they expect Allah to say on the Day of Judgment. Did you pray? Oh, okay, good, because that's not Salah. You're going to do Salah in hell now. If you don't see it, just watch live stream. I think it's 7. Then it was said, this is that which you used to deny by it. Yawm ad-Din is associated with so much severity, okay, to a particular class of people that go to hell. Let's see this one. This is the surah that comes before. All right. This is a really, these are not actually that long as well. Whether the firmament infatarat, I think that's the name of this, infitar, right? And the wandering stars intatharat, and the seas, the 2 seas, bihar. Bahrain is like one type of couple, bihar, another type of couple. Jannatain, jannatan. They translated both as 2 gardens. Fujirat. Remember, Fajr. And when the qubur bu'thirat, a soul knows what it put forth and what it left behind. Oh, those, whichever of you of the human. Clearly this human is one person, insan. Plural would be ins. Why would Allah call us al-insan, al-insan, al-insan so many times? That human is where all the humans come from. Adam. So obvious. And this is actually a grouping. All of you. Ya ayyuha, whichever of her, of the human. What deluded you by your Lord of the Kareem? The one who created you and fashioned you, molded you, imbued balance into you in any suratin, form, surah. Well, he willed rakkabaka. You really have to look at every single thing. This is related to riding, embarking upon something. Irkab. Not sure what it means, but I'm just putting it out there. You deny by the deen. And indeed over you, hafidin, kiraman, katibin. Kiraman, these recorders, two noble ones of the recorders that are guardians. You can imagine who they are. Allah says we will be guardians of this Quran, and he's talking about him and the angels. The angels are recording. There's two of them. Kiraman. Biharan. Anyway, they know whatever you do. Indeed, the abrar would be in na'im. And indeed, the fujjar would be in jahim. Now you know the pairs, because Allah tells you directly what things are paired together. Jahim, na'im. Abrar, fujjar. There's no mistaking. Everything is calculated in the Quran. Quantitatively, qualitatively. And look what it says. يَصْلَوْنَهَا يَوْمَ الدِّينِ. There's no in it. They will burn of her. Jahim, basically everything is like feminine compared to God, compared to Allah, because he's saying this thing called Jahim, which is a place, this will cause them to like combust like a battery forever. I already mentioned in the last live stream, they will have angelic forms, actually. They will have an angelic-like creation in the afterlife, in hell as well, let alone Jannah. And this is needed because hell is so excruciatingly severe and painful. This is the only way humans could ever eternally be immortalized as they're punished forever. You will do salah all the days of your eternity in hell if you forget this. Let me repeat that. You will do salah forever in hell, specifically Jahim, if you forget this. Allah guides whom He wills. Yawm ad-Din. You see how it's forever? You see what Yawm ad-Din is? Yawm ad-Din is forever. Yawm ad-Din is the last day. Yawm ad-Din is Islam. We have perfected you for you. The day. We have perfected for you all. The Deen. They put in their judgment, and I mentioned numerous times that this is literally the judgment, the verdict. In Arabic, in Hebrew, in Aramaic. I just compared all the languages, This is what comes out of it. Why? Oh, why is the deen, this Yawm ad-Din, associated constantly with the people that end up in hell? Because that's who's judged in the end. Do you go to a courtroom? No. You're summoned to a courtroom. Do you speak for yourself in the courtroom? No. You're a defendant. Defend yourself if you can. Who judges? The judge. Who gives out the deen? The jury. They tell the judge. But in this case, the judge knows everything. His name is Allah. Ahkam al-Hakimin. So, the deen is the determination for every soul that earned hell. Trust me, it's earned. It's justified. No two ways about it. And the people on trial during this event are prosecuted, persecuted for the case in question, which is the hour. What they did during the hour. That's all that matters in the end. By extension, it matters what you do also before that, because that is your preparation for the exam. Okay, so think of it this way. You can put any metaphor you want, because this is just so conceptually vast and grand for us to actually compress into our tiny minds. You have an exam. I just have to repeat this so many times because this is of crucial importance for everybody listening and just in general, okay? You're doing a course right now, whether you know it or not. You're doing a course. That course is called Ad-Din al-Islam, okay? This is a textbook. This textbook was sent down because we're like orphans. We don't know our past. We have no lineage. We have nothing. And this is by design. We just have this. And the one who authored it and protected it. You read this, okay? In the tongue it's revealed in. Arabic. That's not just an ethnic tongue that didn't come into the scene after Hebrew and Aramaic and blah, 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 blah. Those are the sounds of creation. Literally. But guess what happens? Just like what happened before. But now, Pharaoh's time, Ibrahim's time, Dawood's time, Suleiman's time, even put partially the Prophet Muhammad's time as well. All those ayat were just compressed back into their original form, which are sounds, words, letters, ayahs. That's what created everything anyway. So he just returns it back into this very conceptual form. So we go our whole lives seeing nothing of the literal words of this book, thinking this is just an outdated copy of some guy in the desert who couldn't read or write, and they probably changed it all and they added these details in there, and maybe the Vatican had a hand to play in the Jesuits and the Freemasons. They wrote it. Nope, not at all. That's what they want you to believe. So you come unprepared to the exam. So while you should be studying, and trust me, studying is just half the battle, okay? If you're having these discussions, it's literally half the battle, because now you enter taqwa because you're conscious of what's coming. please do not let anyone tell you to stop keeping this in your consciousness. And its author, of course, mainly. Because he has something prepared for every soul, collectively. Let's just say you're a person that is very studious anyway, so that's not a problem. And you believe that this is the course that is for everything. This is the discipline for every field, for every type of person, for every soul. It encompasses everything. Okay. But emotionally, you're not ready. You have some issues in your life, psychologically, socially. That works in the academic metaphor too. You come to write an exam and you freeze up. You're like, I studied, but I'm so scared. I'm nervous. The time is ticking because this is a timed examination as well, an hour long. And you're just freezing up. Like you're afraid, basically. Correct that now. Correct that now, your mindset. This is the course material. This is essential, because it will come to life again. But your mindset is the other half of things, because you want Allah to cultivate confidence. That's called iman, by the way. It's not just faith. Faith comes from the word fidelity in Latin. That means something reliable, something you can be confident in, trust. They put on the back of the currency the whole world runs on, in God we trust. You have no doubt. So when you go to do that exam, you're excited. You're like, I waited for this my whole life. Wow. The content from this book, this course, is all around me. I can see it. This is exciting. This is good news. This is bushra. We're from bashar, human beings. So this is like everything we've wanted, everything we dreamed about since children. We were children. And trust me, it won't really be easy, but at the same time, it won't be too hard, because there has to be a balance for those people that, everybody that is destined to be a believer, okay, will be what? Mukhlasin. The agents of al-ikhlas. When Arabs today, they say khalas. Khalas. That means stop, finish. It's over. You finished. Those people crossed the finish line. They finished the story. And that's why Shaitan has no authority over them. They will probably be the ones to kill him in the end. Alhamdulillah. So, yeah, you can flunk the exam. You can come unprepared. And you can depend on, Allah's mercy, intercession of the Prophet Muhammad, Jesus coming down and saving y'all from saving y'all in the rapture. But truly, don't depend on your assumption that you're like saved. Just Develop the character you need in that story. Think of it this way. Allah wrote the best story for you. By far. By far. You're not an accident. You have worth. You have meaning. You have agency. He gives you the sovereignty right here. Imagine if people, those like free men on the land, came with this book in the courtroom. Not the Bible. The Bible, they know they use the Bible all the time. That's their, as a friend of mine says, intellectual property. So they can mock the Bible. They can make the Bible from God. The hell with the Bible. It's actually conceived of and written after the Quran, if you haven't noticed. But this book, they won't dare. They won't dare touch this book. There have been people that burn this book that die. Inexplicably. Nobody killed them. Nobody murdered them. There have been people that swear on this book privately and they die because they lied. They swear on this book and they lied and they just die in an instant. Inexplicably. Do not fool around with this book. And let me tell you, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a book. I mean, it's paper, it's ink, but that's only in this world. What this represents is the user manual for the characters, us, from the programmer. Okay? So really, I mean, if this is a matrix, okay, he gives you the ins and outs of the entire thing as a reminder. What you are, who you are, where you're going, where you came from, what's going to happen. There is literally nothing that comes even close to that. Don't tell me there's multiple recitations of this. They contradict each other. This is the one. Don't tell me that the markings were lost. Markings are all here. Markings didn't exist in the beginning? No, sure they did. How do you know? Oh, you have these little carbon dated papers? That's not what this talks about. Oh, you have the Bible. The Bible has different details. It's not even in a tangible language. It contradicts itself. Oh, you have hadith that tells you that this thing here, it's explained, it's all explained. The Prophet just gave the explanation for it. Nah, rubbish. All that stuff contradicts itself. What will it take for humanity to wake up and just think what they have right now? You want to talk about warning, witnessing? You're not going to do that by telling people, how do you get to paradise? Where do you meet your Lord on Judgment Day? How do you get to paradise? Where do you meet your Lord on Judgment Day? This. Show them this. You don't have to distribute it, print hundreds of copies, and just show them this. Everybody recognizes what this is. Everybody. Which brings me to the Day of Judgment. The Day of Judgment, as I mentioned before, I don't even have to show you. I like to show you so you don't take my word for it. But please don't take my word for it. Go in there, in the book, and look every time it says Yawm ad-Din. Just that. Still working on actually extracting every single word time it says Yawm and what that's connected to. That's, as you can imagine, it's over like 400 times. So it's a lot to work with, a lot of data. But that one, Yawm ad-Din, unto itself, That's just for criminals. Criminals. Think about that. You become a criminal by your actions. And you become convicted as such in a courtroom. And you get sentenced to life imprisonment sometimes. But in this case, it's eternal life sentence. Do you know what the believers are doing? Let me show you. I think I have it here somewhere. I was going to get into some other things, guys. But I'll just... hang on. Okay, you guys can see that, right? And the twilight. Please, this word twilight usually is talking about another book, which is kind of, frankly, just who cares? But that word was chosen, as was new moon, eclipse, and so forth, because this thing that we call twilight is actually aurora in Arabic. Don't take it up with me. This is in the dictionaries. And clearly there's only one, because it's only mentioned here in this ayah. I have a whole thing about la uqsimu, okay? But that's kind of not relevant to what's the topic at hand, which is the Fajr and the Layl and the Qur'an. بالشفق والليل وما وسق والقمر إذا اتسق. Same root. Three things: aurora, nighttime, moon. Expect this during the hour when we're underneath this layl. If you don't think that it's a physical thing that actually covers you, Muslims, just go back to the story of your father, your ancestor Ibrahim. If you're a righteous person, he will be your Muslim ancestor. Ibrahim, probably one of the most inspirational people in history. Allah elevated him in such a way that the path to salvation is named after him. And it says he was shown literally the malakut. It's not just mulk. This is like the whole thing of the firmaments and the earth. So this is something for Mecca part 7. Takes a while, you can imagine. I have to draw some things out and blah, blah, blah. But that's the dunya. Earth. All of its history and everything. That plane. 7 heavens. 7 hells. Really, they're underworlds, but 7. Just on either up and down. You're not even in the Jannah yet. You're not even in Jahannam at all. These are literally gates to those places. And so, as-samawat are just the things literally separating the earth that we live on from the hereafter meeting us. That's why Allah says, like, it weighs heavily upon the heavens, the hour. Okay. This made him from the certain ones, the ascertainers, the people of certainty. So, oh look, this is another word for when. Lamma. Covered upon him the layl. This is a very interesting word Allah uses for covering, because there's a lot of words that can mean covering technically in English if you don't want to have a one-to-one translation. This one is Jannah. Mentioned only in this story, this verb. The word, the noun made from this verb, Jannah. Jannah. Couple things. Jinn, fetuses. Jinn, obviously the most. Jannat, that's probably the most actually. Jinnati. Jan, Majnun. If you haven't wondered by now where the jinn live, I mentioned in some other streams, definitely will try to convey that in the next episode in the Mecca series. But clearly, it's a place that's covered. And the word associated with this verb of this root is layl, al-layl. Okay. And this is why he sees all these celestial bodies, a particular planet, or actually it's a wandering star, but that's what planet means. Then he sees it eclipse. This is not just setting, really. It's literally just going into something and changing its state somehow. It goes, changes, comes back on the other side, like nothing happened. So the things that people worship as gods, clearly, because that's what he's saying, this is my Lord, this is my Lord, this is my Lord, are subject to Allah. And Ibrahim it's so amazing. He literally saw their gods, or what they ascribe as their gods, change like anyone else, subject to Allah's authority like anything else. The sun would become black. The moon would become a light, nur, very bright, somewhere in the world. And this planet as well, this star, which I would suggest is Venus. So, al-afilin is only used, and yeah, you can't tell me that means setting, because there's already a word for that. Gharab. Maghrib. The place of setting, or going away, or going through a veil, or something like that. Darkening. Only in this story. You guys seen this? There's a reason why, since April 8th of this year, if you type this into Google, that exact phrase, solar eclipse, you get a little animation of it. Let me show you. Did you see that? Let's do it again. There it is. Every time, since April 8th, I looked it up. They are tracking the sky like never before. Because all the information is up there. and they know it. There's only one problem, though. They cannot hasten the hour, nor delay it. What you see here on this cover is a representation. Okay? It's a representation of the whole thing. I can't explain what that means yet because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. But it's there. This medieval looking artwork is not random either. The people in power today are actually dependent on the believers, who are dependent on the angels, who are dependent on Allah. So ultimately, Allah is the independent one. You know what that means? That means that they need people to look into the Quran and to basically ignore all of the detractors around the Quran, all of the kind of fakery around it, move out of all the controlled opposition and dialectics around it and debates around it, to just see it for what it is so that they have some understanding. When is this hour coming? That's what they always ask the Prophet. When is it arriving? When is it arriving? And the Prophet says, the messenger, that knowledge is with Allah. So clearly, a duration in time has this Quran. Imagine if I take this Quran, okay, and just open it. Let me just open it. The book is open. Allah says when the pages are made public, right? This is kind of part of that story in a way, sort of, symbolically. And you see the ayat in the horizons and in yourself. Eventually, the time elapses, and then everything that happened in that time period, it's all recorded for eternity. As if it isn't already, but, you know, it's kind of Allah's way of telling us He controls everything. So this solar eclipse is very significant. That's why this is the only Google Doodle I can think of that actually somehow still relevant. I thought it happened months ago. Okay, who cares now? Why do you have to animate it for us still? Don't they do these kind of animations or little illustrations on the day that the thing happens? Not since the day? Did we enter into a sort of, shall I say, part of the timeline of weighty significance? Maybe. Because like I showed in another live stream, the one called The Hour, I'm pretty sure, this was followed by what? It was followed by this. Unprecedented. And guess what? On NASA's website, they actually project solar eclipses until 2026, August of 2026. That's 5 more that will be visible in different parts of the world. That's 2 years from now, roughly. You can also find, if I type in the English word for shafaq, this is still happening in the world. One week ago, maybe visible tonight. This is something started in May. Around the world, it's still relevant. 14 hours ago. Do you see this? This is not the Arctic right here. You guys don't see it, sorry. This is not the Arctic. Just 8 hours ago, 18 hours ago. These are all pictures from regular people. This is not a hoax. This is as-sirat. Oh. Very first surah. It says there, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqima. There's no ila. There's no two words, which you would expect if it was like, guide us to the straight path. What if the straight path comes to us? Still happening. I saw an article that this is projected to happen over the span for the next 2 years. They know. They're just apologizing for it, and they're just kind of underplaying. This is just kind of a cool thing. It's not just a cool thing. These are ayat starting to come to life. You ever wonder, if you watch this channel and you wonder, so Qur'ana, how are these things going to come back? How is this world going to change so that it will allow for your theory to exist? First of all, it's not my theory at all. This is just this book. Take it up with the author of this book. You can see where these lights come from. Notice everybody pretty much uses the aurora borealis, right? Because that kind of is like the understanding, right? Some people in the kind of truther world, they say this is just HARP technology. Really, HARP technology. Do you know what HARP stands for? Hyperactive Auroral Research Program. HARP actually exists to research this very thing since it was founded. Because they've known for a long time. Once you start to see this, prepare yourself. They know the hour is close. They know the timing is impeccable. They're just waiting to see how it comes back. There's no mistake in anything. Yeah. That's right, Ashraf. Let me show you. Can't find it, but They're based in Alaska, which I already mentioned is a twisting of the Arabic word al-Aqsa. You see? And there's a city there. This is all coincidence. Fine. Fine. This is why I repeat this, because I don't think people really get how big this is. It's just been in the faces the whole time. The largest city of Al-Aqsa is Anchorage. Tell us, O Messenger, when is the hour anchored? It's anchored in Allah's knowledge. Oh yeah, that's an interesting thing too. If you just go to Aurora, don't know if I'm freezing up. This is a website called Aurora Hunter. Happens to be a guy called Todd Salat. It's kind of a strange coincidence. Okay. It's pretty huge. Honestly, I don't doubt that's his name. I'm just thinking like, we have to look at things from the lens that Allah wrote the whole story. Like everything is a means to an end. Okay. So, let's go back to the mention of this in the Quran. And I'm not even getting into the whole point that there is some kind of a barrier that's called aqtar. These are regions out of access. And you're right, reconciliation, that Allah uses a word to say the hour, what has already passed, what has already come. Ashratuha. They say indications. It's little hints. That is what's going on here. Imagine, Allah just casually, nonchalantly tells us what our world actually is. It's just indications of as-sa'ah, the hour. Sorry, but that's how the Creator sees things. That means that's how we should see things. Look at these people that are named after the aurora. Mushfiqeen. If you have something called shirk and you're called a mushrik or mushrikeen for plural, that means you are an agent of shirk. If you have something called mashriq or sharq with a qaf, that means east, sunrise, and you're called a mushriq or mushriqeen, that means you're easterner or easterners, people of the east, agent of the east. There are many agents of the east online today. So what is a mushfiq and what is a mushfiqeen? By the way, have you noticed the beginning of this video, this live stream, I explained to you idafa. Idafa is a word in Arabic grammar that's used in the Quran, which means it's like an addition, it's a possession, it's a kind of accommodation of a word to something else. It's neither definite or indefinite. It's in between. And there's many examples of this. Qur'ana al-Fajr. That's in idafa, the word Qur'ana. Let's go through this. وضع الكتاب. That doesn't mean placed. That means delivered. Delivered like a child is delivered. There's no doubt that's what it means. Miriam's mother did not place her from her womb. She didn't set up Miriam. She delivered her. Baka. You wonder where Baka is? Baka is the first of the house delivered for mankind. And Mecca is a button, a belly. Nobody can deny that. Belly. The same type of belly that Yunus found himself in some sea creature in its belly. Let's not play games. Innermost. Yeah. Your belly. Belly of the beast. Belly button of the world. Navel of the world. And just so happens this mother, you have to explain how a city is a mother, okay? So that's the explanation. There's a birthing of creation from the creation that Allah enabled. But anyway, that's neither here nor there at the moment. The kitab fatara al-mujrimina mushfiqina from what in it ويقولون يا ويلتنا. Okay. What is the difference between being fearful and standing in awe? Actually, I mentioned this before. This has nothing to do with fear. So many words have nothing to do with fear. Like I mentioned, in your exam, if you're afraid, you can forget about passing. Because you want to pass so you can graduate, literally. Graduate. Up, 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 and away. Ascending the straight path and not fail and flunk and then sent down to detention. So this word actually means compassionate. He knows what is before them. No, it says he knows what is between their hands. Why do they not care to just say what's there? Okay, he knows what is between their hands. This means hands. And what is succeeding them, which would be behind you anyway. And they do not intercede except for one he approves, and of them from awe of them, awe of him, I should say. Fear, 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 fear. Unbelievable. We already have a word for fear. It's called khawf. Khayf, khaf. You know who fears Allah? Shaitan. That's why his minions made sure to put the believers in fear of Allah. It's kind of a stroke of genius. Because if you follow the translation and not the Arabic, don't be surprised if you're following something wrong. Thank you, safety. This is the point of this channel and this undertaking, that the Quran deserves the reverence it came with. Okay. From awe of him, reverence of him. There's a similar word, khushu'. In a sense, those people are humbled. We're humbled. The tears streaming down our face, our spines shivering from reverence for Allah, what He actually shows you. It's unimaginable. Mushfiqun. Okay. They're not in fear. They're sympathetic. They don't fear their Lord unseen. This is a lie. This means they believe Allah's in the creation, because the unseen is part of the creation. You get me? How did they put apprehensive now? I thought it means fear. Let's look at it word for word. The ones who revere their Lord, in awe of their Lord. Of course, their Lord by the unseen. This applies to the reverence, not to Allah, not to their Lord. He's not who fear their Lord unseen. Stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. It's who revere their Lord by the hidden world, the unseen. This is so monumental. This means what you see around here, that's not what Allah's awe-inspiring glory encompasses. That's just one aspect of it. It's actually based upon the ghaib. You know what the ghaib is? You know, it's the unseen, of course. The hidden, ghiba, something that's not perceptible. Like the jinn, they're part of the unseen. The books that came before the Quran, that are from Allah, they're part of the unseen. And look, it tells you right now. First time it's mentioned, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. I mentioned this in the last stream. They confide by the unseen. That's the start of your iman, actually. Unseen. You wonder why so many people don't actually believe in God? They don't understand what He's capable of. Literally. He's not all this torture and punishment and stuff. We can do that well enough. When it comes to Allah, your entire paradigm is just gone. Because we find ourselves in ignorance. Don't they tell you in hadith and the seerah of the Prophet? The Prophet came in an age of jahiliyyah. Complete arrogance. Complete. What if that's right now? What if that's what he left behind, what he had in his world in a sense? But definitely right now. And I'm sure there will be plenty of ignorance, plenty of jahil people in the future. Plenty of them. But the Prophet, he sent as a messenger despite that. Okay. Salat is actually in the same word. First reference in the Quran to as-salat is right after believing in the unseen. If you want to do salat, believe in the unseen first. Literally. Then pray as much as you want. Whatever helps. Their names. Okay. These are the names of the angels, because he says asma'ihim, their titles. The angels have titles and functions and roles. And guess what? Adam, the first human, has this unbelievable knowledge. He's told the functions of the angels, the titles of them. That's like insane. They're in the Quran, by the way. They're in the Quran, but what I want to highlight is Allah is saying to Adam. Allah speaks to Adam in first person. Imagine how personable this creator is. He spoke to the first human that had pieces of all of us in his genetics. Adam, I know. Indeed, I know. I know the unseen of the firmaments and the earth. That phrase right there is the second mention of the word ghaib. That means the ghaib constitutes the magnitude and scale of the entire dunya. And probably more, because that's just this aspect addressed. There's an entire creation unseen, just hidden from us. And aspects of it are applicable. And then the third mention. So, first mention, Iman. Al-Ghaib is tied to Iman. You're the thing that actually your salvation, your eternity depends on. Okay. Second mention, the heavens or firmaments and the earth. That's all ghaib. Unseen. Third mention, anba'i. News? You mean the thing that the prophets came with? This is anba'i, al-ghaib. Please don't tell me that the concepts in the Quran are just things we can actually show and demonstrate now. Literally, we can't. Even if we had access to a time machine, this Quran is about the future, primarily, fully, because it encompasses everyone. That's why the messenger was sent as a mercy for the worlds. That includes jinn. Okay, you get the idea. So they're in awe of their Lord by the unseen, and of them from the hour are mushfiqun. That's literally what it says in Arabic. The hour is tied to this. Notice how many times mushfiqun are related to the hour, the same ayah. Those who are yu'minuna, الذين آمنوا مشفقون منها. They're mushfiquna from it, the hour. They're not fearful. They're sympathetic to its reality. The wrongdoers, مشفقين ظالمين مشفقين مما كسبوا. It's interesting. It's almost like there's a difference between mushfiqeen and mushfiqun. Not sure exactly. I'll tell you right now that fear doesn't fit in here. These people are not fearful of a punishment because they accept the truth of Yawm ad-Din. That's right. Let's find the truth. Khafun is actually fear. They fear. When it says fear me, nah, it doesn't say that. There's no ya at the end. Allah says ya yukhafun, basically. Khafun, they are fearful ones, basically. they fear. Do not fear shaitan and his awliya, and they fear. What else do I got here? I mentioned the eclipse. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. The qamar khasafa is swallowed. Cave. You understand? We have a concept in mythology that the moon swallowed up during a new moon. There's nothing there. It's just a big black hole. And that big black hole moves in front of the sun. I know there's a debate on the cosmology of like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's not the moon. Maybe it's just a orb or something. No, it's the moon. There's no other thing. This Rahu Ketu thing that goes in Indian mythology, those are actually terms for the moon. It's different phases. It's different, the moon swallowed. Yeah, let's find the truth. I did mention, if you look at the stream, maybe a little bit before you came on in the chat, they're literally intimately connected. Same concept. The black sun. Let's find the truth. I'll show you what the black sun is. Let's find the truth. This is the black sun. The whole time. Ravu, Ketu, whatever it's called. Those are different terms for the moon. And this ayah that mentions the swallowing of the moon. Look what it says right after. وَجُمِعَ جُمِعَ الشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ. وَجُمِعَ الشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ. جُمِعَ الشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ. The black sun. By the way, the sun is like this, actually. It's just on the other side. The other side of the barzakh. Ibrahim saw it. He said, wow, the sun is very dim here. Holy moly. It's like nighttime. If you've ever seen a solar eclipse, this is the sky. This is the sky. Night. Night. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. That's why their realm can only be light. During the hour, we finally get to see what's behind the veil, because the veil is lifted. Has to be. Maybe it was lifted in other parts of history. Maybe it was thinner. So aspects of the hour, you guys. Happy hour. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. If you wake up one day, and I could be wrong, I don't know, this is a bit of a speculation on my part. If you wake up one day and you notice, hey, where the hell did the sun go? This might be why. Not only that, The Isra, Surah 17, what's the first ayah? The one who took his servant by a night from Al-Masjid Al-Haram towards Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Oh yeah, the sun rising from the west. What does that mean? You remember the story with Ibrahim and that kafir? Alladhi kafara? One person is called Alladhi kafara. I really wonder who that one kafir is that is singled out from all the Alladhina kafaru. If not shaitan. And Ibrahim told him very plainly, okay, you jinn god, so-called, bring the sun from the west. Iblis is speechless. If it's not Iblis, okay, it's just a very, very tyrannical person that is literally compared to the worship of a son of God in Surah 19, because that phrase only happens twice. Alladhi kafara. One. It's not anyone, the one. Ibrahim is very much aware, because in Surah Al-Baqarah, what you'll notice is Ibrahim's spelling of his name is different than outside of Surah Al-Baqarah. And Ibrahim is actually very different in his mentality in Surah Al-Baqarah. That's a turning point in his life where now he's ready. Okay? And he's telling everyone he's done the Hajj in a way. And he has no doubt in what he's been made certain of by his Lord. Okay? So he tells this person, my Lord raises the sun from the east, because that's what humans see. The sun rises from the east. Of course, for us, because we're so far removed from our home, we actually don't see the actual place of east. Mashriq al-shams. Tala'. And it does rise. I mean, if you want to say it means rise or emerge, whatever. But clearly, these words are used the same way, right? So it does emerge from some kind of a veil, a hijab, if you will, a barzakh, an aqtar of copper and fire. They call it shu'av min nuhas wa nar. So that's why Alaska is called Alaska, and its biggest city is called Anchorage, and it has the station there called HARP, which is what literally angels are associated with anyway, which is called Hyperactive Auroral Research Program, because this aurora is literally emanating from the sides of the north. And that's why it doesn't matter if you say Australis or Borealis. It's the same thing. It's just from different ends. That's all it is. That's why when they give you a little, CGI little imagery graph of how it looks, they just flip it for the South Pole. It's the same thing. North Pole, flip it for the South Pole. Because the South Pole doesn't exist as we're told, actually. It's not exactly how they show it. Same with the North Pole. Although the only difference is the North Pole is a bit more weighty for us. So Ibrahim, he's used to the idea. It comes from the East because he's a human, from the human world. So he tells this jinn person, raise it from the West, because for them, it seems to actually does rise from the West. So, yeah, this idea is in the Quran. No hadith, just ahsan al-hadith. I mentioned that Isra is tied to al-layl, the concept of layl. Why? For whatever reason, the layl is where righteousness blossoms, miracles come back in a way. I'm not saying that it's the only thing that's obviously Allah can make miracles wherever He wants. But for the hour, there's something very special. Auroras are only visible during night. Stars are only visible during night. The light of the moon is only visible during night. And when you take the absence of the moon, literally, like it's not even detectable, the moon during a new moon for 3 days every month, and it comes in front of the sun, this is what happens. You have this night. Literally, it's a just night formed before your eyes. It's the freakiest thing you can imagine. It's in the middle of the day, and it's night. It looks like a sunset. It looks like like Fajr before sun, whatever. All the stars come out in the afternoon, in the morning, wherever, whenever it happens. At noontime, all the stars come out. And if there was any auroras, you would see that too. So the Isra happens during the night. It's tied to these phenomena. And we're named after it too, because Beni Israel, that's their destiny. Not all of them. Surah Al-Fatiha says, the surah of the conqueror, it says, غير المغضوب عليهم والضالين. Those people are not included in this salvation scenario. Fir'aun understands very well there is something up there, at least in the upward direction, that the heavens protect. The heaven itself is protected. And that's why he says, Haman, there's no God other than me. So, make for me this palace so that I may rise. This is not look. I mentioned this in the last stream. Look or mount. Rose, rising. Fir'aun. What does Fir'aun mean? Did anyone ever tell you what Fir'aun means? That's his name. I used to think maybe there's multiple Fir'auns, but I think that's his name. So, this is what he's named after. It's mentioned one time in the Quran. And by the way, have you noticed Quran corpus? I'm very well aware it's not perfect. But I use it because instead of me having to do all this work, I can just present something and just explain where it's right and where it's wrong. They never included the word Fir'aun, which is mentioned like 70 times or so in this root. They just omitted it. I don't know, was it an algorithm or was it humans? I think it was an algorithm. Very convenient, because then you can understand why he's called Fir'aun. Same thing I think is for Iblis. Iblis is not used in the word Yublisu. So you don't know what his name means. He means the despairing one, the person of desperation. He's just desperate the whole time, miserable existence. Why did Allah decide to talk about these branches? Who cares? They're just branches of a tree. It makes no difference. We've seen branches all over, have we? No. These branches are bigger than anything in dunya. Because they're in the heaven. So, of course, the one who wants to ascend or rise towards the heaven, so he can just waltz into Jannah, he's named Fir'aun, because the word for branches, فرعها, في السماء. This is your world tree. And she holds everything. She holds the stars, and she has the heavens. They're just like the plant with 7 spikes for the 7 heavens. All right. So you got that. Now you have this. Remember I said they have in the currency, in God we trust, new order of the ages. I wonder what that means. Why, oh why do they have this term, new world order? Maybe because the hour is the new world order. It's not even in their control. They just know it's gonna happen. They know. That's why the top of that pyramid, which there's mountains that are shaped like that. The jibal are called autad, pegs, stakes that stick out. The front part sticks out. So the mountains of Qaf, the jibal, they're like this. Black, red and white stripes in the north. They circle the world. Fir'aun is called Dhul Autad. That's not an obelisk he built or anything. They're stakes. The pyramids are fake. They're just fake. It says Allah destroyed everything Fir'aun was manufacturing. His people were manufacturing. So that means that Al-Autad is made by Allah. And Fir'aun had possession of that. Imagine, during his life. Why did they put 1 eye? Why not 2 eyes? They could fit 2 eyes in there. It's because the sun and the moon are joined. The 2 eyes in the creation, lights, seeing everything, kind of, they poeticize things like this. So Allah made sure that they would basically incriminate themselves and give us this this kind of poeticized form of knowledge. Anuit Keptis. This is called the Great Seal of the United States. The Prophet is called the Seal of the Messenger, or the Prophets. And the United States was made by 13 colonies, which is just 1 with 12 around it. 12 tribes of Bani Israel. And the word Anuit Keptis in Latin. Literal translation is he favors. He approves. They say this means God, right? That's the eye of God, and these are all about God. He favors Bani Israel to ascend during this time of the hour, the New World Order. Oh, sorry, I think it's right here. You see that? He favors. He approves. This is strikingly similar to Bani Israel's attributes in the Quran. He favored them upon the worlds. And what else do I have? That's it. That's it. That's the stream for today. So, a lot to absorb, I can imagine. But keep in mind that I'm telling you exactly what I think, exactly how I got to these understandings with Allah's permission. Whereas other people, they don't tell you anything. They just say, this is what it is. How'd you get there? That's just what it is. Some guy told me. And then some guy told him. And some guy told him. What they're trying to say is their rabbi told him. And the rabbi would learn from another rabbi. And the rabbi practices some Kabbalah thing that is just totally nonsensical, totally just mishmash of assumptions, clothing the truth. So I'm going to have to call it a day. Thank you so much for listening in. And peace to everyone in the chat. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.